Recently, the former ARROW director, known as Sean Kirkpatrick, attacked our witnesses and members on this committee. It should be noted that he's a documented liar and brings into question what his purpose at ARROW really was if it was not to follow up on investigations and disclose his findings to members of Congress.
Bold statements by Representative Luna at yesterday's UAP hearing, where she called Sean Kirkpatrick a documented liar on the record. Now, this is not shocking to anyone in the UFO community. We know all about Sean Kirkpatrick, who is the former director of AARO, which is the UFO UAP division of the Pentagon. Last year, I conducted an interview, which has been unreleased up until now, with legendary journalist and UFO researcher Moulton Howe, where we actually discussed all about Sean Kirkpatrick, his lies, his so-called retirement, which actually was him moving out of that position and moving into Oak Ridge. Now, Oak Ridge is a facility very similar to Los Alamos where UFO whistleblowers and former employees have come to Linda Moulton Howe over the last several decades to reveal information about the UFO technology that was actually happening at these facilities. So she has firsthand information from former employees. We also discuss in this interview Sean Kirkpatrick's private endeavors, where he has private patents in nonlinear technologies. What exactly is nonlinear technologies? So I hope you enjoy this interview. It was conducted at Conscious Life Expo of 2024, and there is background noise because we had to seize the opportunity. Sean Kirkpatrick. So, as we know, he just retired and just kind of under our radar, he's already in a new position. So, before we get into that, I did want to talk a little bit about since he's retired, have you seen any of his interviews that he's done since he's come out?
No, but I have been following the mystery of Sean Kirkpatrick for a year. And the fact that this was a person who was inside of the Pentagon, put in head of the so-called ARROW office, and then ends up, when we finally have Grush and pilots who had encounters with UFOs for real, with really strong people backing them up, what does Sean Kirkpatrick do but first say that Rush is not telling the truth? There's nothing really to UFOs. It is the military world of the Pentagon that he knows everything about. And the first time that I was reading Sean Kirkpatrick attacking what the Congress of the United States was trying to bring publicly to the American people, I thought, this is absolutely weird, upside down, and backwards. Ever since, which was in the middle of 2023, it has been an evolution up to his firing, allegedly seriously, in December, I think it was. And then the next thing is that he is in a new job position. And what is he doing? He's saying that everything that people had heard was absolutely wrong, that there are no UFOs, there are no ETs. His energy of action is such a slap in the face of what he was hired to do 1 year before. That what does it all boil down to? He's being paid a lot of money to be a confuser in this whole situation when we finally, for the very first time, we're getting to serious congressional hearings again. Burchett's House subcommittee hearing. We thought that there were going to be more, that after the first one, which was in the summer, that there would be another and another, and that we would finally, in a government of, by, and for the people, that a congressperson representing people in the United States would be unfolding the truth on television for the nation. Instead, everything closes down. No more House subcommittee hearings. And you hear from Burchett and Luna and some of the others that they are now frustrated because what they thought were opening doors are slamming shut doors. My question, what is it that they learned, has happened, discovered, experienced between the House subcommittee hearings in the summer and the beginning of the winter in February or 2024, what happened in that half a year that Sean Kirkpatrick would still be a voice saying that there was nothing to UFOs and ETs?
It's really wild. So the debrief had actually reported on this, and I missed it at the time, that the day before that big David Grush stuff, which was on June 7th, actually on June 6th, they had posted Sean Kirkpatrick's job listing. So the debrief actually, when I was looking back to see his job history, actually his job went up on national, like this is going to be available soon. So that was the day before Grush came out. His job went up on Indeed.
Why does the debrief even have that information? Who is the debrief working with that is around the fate of this guy?
Yeah.
Who is talking out of one side of two mouths all the time? There is something about it being orchestrated, I'm certain, at some high Pentagon or JSOC level. But to what end? Did they deliberately, was the whole plan, let's stop the House hearings, but it will be done because of other actions, not because we are going to say to the public, we're closing the hearings. But that's what they, I think, wanted to do.
Yeah. And even as you saw, like Representative Luna was upset that she can't even share this and that she actually is thinking of other ways of getting out onto location where they can actually share that information. So also, as I was kind of looking into Sean Kirkpatrick's history with this too, he also opened his own, registered his own company in October of this past year. That's like a consulting company. So it's very interesting how he's shifting. And I'm sure you're
hiring himself in order to scuttlebutt the Congress.
And so, as like anyone watching probably might be aware of, the Department of Energy is what he's now shifted into, because basically the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, where his new job is, this is a contractor of the Department of Energy, which is, they say, the third largest budget of our American dollars. So this comes back to like the iron triangle that gets talked about a lot, how basically they take people out of positions who were once in Congress or once in like the bureaucracy and move them to the private companies to lobby that.
But still under control.
Exactly.
And controlling who is going to speak is the whole game.
So I wanted to tell you some of his job description that, so I also wanted to thank you for yesterday telling me to call Oak Ridge and being like, I know it's going to be scary. Tell them you're covering it. And and it's scary to be like, I'm Jennifer Carmody and I want to know this, but I was like, okay, I can do it. So I was very nervous. Unfortunately, they said they will not confirm employment of anyone on the phone, but then he pointed me in the direction to find the job description, and it was all on the website. And then I looked at the original job listing and took those job duties. So basically what he's hired to do is to develop strategies between the intelligence community and the defense departments, and basically try to get sponsorships with national security, sponsorships with, so it's basically lobbying back to the exact place that he was working. So, and who better to lobby money out of the department you were just working in than the person who was formerly the head of that department? And now he's consulting and pretty much overseeing the process to ensure that the next generation of science and technology has been integrated into national security. So it's really a continuation. And what was interesting is on the website, they have his full bio that was a bit deeper than what I had seen before. And his connections with CIA, DIA. He's actually has 2 different patents that are, it suggests that it's connected to a non-linear phenomenon. And he's like a leader in non-linear phenomenon. So
how would you define non-linear phenomenon? Non-linear means not in a straight progressive line. And if they're now trying to come up with a new catch-all name for UFOs, why did they pick non-linear phenomena?
Wow. And I guess because if you're talking interdimensional, the fourth dimension is time, and that's kind of the dimension that we're seeing when it comes to all of these abductions, sightings.
They can control time.
Yeah, we're seeing that the time skipping and the time compressing.
But Sean Kirkpatrick has been spending the last several months trying to convince everyone that there's nothing to UFOs, nothing to ETs. And clearly everybody who has seen him, you don't believe him. You wouldn't trust him. He is clearly being paid to muddy the waters. That's what I would say, that Sean Kirkpatrick, no matter what he's doing or where he's going, he's muddying waters, which means that is his assignment. Doesn't matter what the title says.
Exactly. And so, Oak Ridge is such a phenomenal place. And I know that throughout your career, it's come up so many times, and you know so many stories. I've seen things from all these UFO sightings that were official military, officially on radar, plus a lot of the nuclear stuff, the Manhattan Project stuff.
Like Los Alamos.
Yes.
The two, they're part of that whole historic link as we were developing the atomic bomb. Los Alamos is playing the strategic, that's where everything was done with Oppenheimer out in the plains. And then you had the combination that between the labs and the military and the people who were supposed to keep everybody, no one was to know anything that was actually going on in any of these places. It's exactly what's happening today. It's just been repackaged, glossed up, and Sean Kirkpatrick is the lead of nobody is to know the truth. That's my definition of what he's doing.
Yeah, I so agree with that. Can you tell us a little bit about Oak Ridge and things that have come up for you, and even if you've ever spoken to anyone that's worked there or had any experiences there?
Oak Ridge Laboratory in Tennessee is one of the locations where UFOs have been reported and seen, or I get a letter or a communication from somebody who is retiring from Oak Ridge and they said, we want to talk to you about what we know about UFOs. Same exact kind of, we'll say, subject matter at Los Alamos. I get the same kind of letters. They might as well be peas in a pod. Los Alamos and Oak Ridge, New Mexico, Tennessee. Atom bomb development, control of all kinds of things having to do with radioactivity. Both places over the history since World War II associated with people seeing UFOs in the sky over those two labs.
And it also has this very strange connection to what was called the Secret City, that during the Manhattan Project, that's where they were developing the atomic bomb. And all of these people didn't even know that they were involved in this, basically.
That's right. When the government wants to compartmentalize and they don't want anybody, including the people they are hiring, to know anything, they are experts at keeping people away from each other and knowledge in such a fashion that it's how they have obscured UFOs and ETs for 70 years. But how did they do it? Where did they get those skills to cover up everything, including to the people who are there working? That is a real question.
Yeah. How do they keep that so secretive there's so many checks and balances, and still how secretive it stays?
But I have talked with people who have had to sign a security clearance in which there will be no words, non-disclosure, and it will say right in upon penalty, jail. It just makes it sound horrible if you talk about anything and you're putting your name and your address and phone number, and you can't have this job unless you sign the non-disclosure agreement. I've heard so many men say that they have turned down some work because the NDA, the non-disclosure, was so strong it scared them.
Oh, wow.
So that's how the government controls people.
And I guess that's kind of the fine line with stuff like this, even for someone like Kirkpatrick and all the people along the way, is that in their minds, they've taken an oath to serve their country and the safety of their country and all of this stuff. So it's almost like the moral it kind of manipulates the morals of the person because it's not
It's
maybe the right
okay for
thing.
you to lie.
Yeah. Because it's for the protection of the whole. And a lot of times that could happen in a lot of situations. A gangster thinks that he's doing the right thing to put food on the family for his
Yeah.
family,
Yeah, that's right. And that's how people get stuck. And once they're in it, if they try to get out, they're going to have to sign more NDAs as goes with the territory. And the more NDAs that you sign, the more the government can trap you and hurt you. And then if they hurt one person, two persons, it closes down another 50 who hear about that. And it has been a long, long, long history of controlling so many people. But in my work, I get people who want to tell the truth that they know that is so remarkable that they have been close to identified as a spacecraft by other ETs. And that's where they have worked and they have been retired for some time. And it haunts them that they know what they saw, what they were signed for security, and they want to talk. And some of the most fascinating interviews that I have done have been with people in exactly that category. But then they say, I just can't allow you to use my voice. So I alter the voice frequency. I've never had anybody have a problem with having their voice altered. And you can definitely understand the stories. But that's how far so many people who have served in our military, served in Washington, served in the war, that's how far they have to go in order to simply tell the truth of what they themselves either had security jobs to guard or keep people from. And that's where that phrase of mine, classified reality. Since World War II, we literally, in the United States, reality has been classified. And we're finally in 2024, 80 some years later, we're still in governments arguing and putting people like Sean Kirkpatrick to really muddy the waters on inside the Pentagon and outside the Pentagon. What could possibly be the reason that at this juncture, this far after World War II, that the United States government of, by, and for the people cannot stand in front of national TV and say, here is the truth about other life in this universe. We apologize for not doing this and telling you this during the war. But what we worried about were, and they could make a list, and people could read a real list of what they were worried about. And today, we can assure you, can introduce you to some advanced intelligences from other solar systems, and we know they have helped us, they are helping us, and that we're entering a new era where on this planet Earth, Homo sapien is going to be able to interact with advanced intelligences in this universe that come from far, far away. Oh, that would be music to my ears.
Well, you have such a big impact in doing that too. You've been one of the main people that has been pushing this forward, and I feel like they owe it to you at this point.
Well, it owed to all of you. I mean, we are the one nation on the planet that defined itself centuries ago as a government of, by, and for the people. But when World War II hit, it went completely the opposite direction. It was to keep everything from the American public. And that's where it seems to me everything went kind of in a distorted way. And you start distortions and you're not reporting straight. Everything are cover ups. And the cover ups are made into legitimate news by false forces like Sean Kirkpatrick. Then you get to a year like 2024 with all kinds of rumors going in every direction. And you can't help but ask the question, what government are we in now?
Yeah.
And what is its priorities about UFOs and ET?
And especially, I love when you talk about, that we need to declassify reality. And I think that is kind of some of the stuff that's getting hinted at with Representative Luna, where she's talking about, like, she's really zeroing in on the interdimensional part, because that is the situation that we're dealing with. And in our last interview, you talked about how you think that there might have been AI kind of for all these years, and it could have been more interdimensional, but that the grays and stuff could be connected to AI, and we just didn't realize that it has been interdimensional all along.
What is your definition of interdimensional?
So, I would say pretty much everything that is outside of our like light spectrum that we can see. This whole dimension is our visible light spectrum that we can receive information from. But this same place is where all the dimensions are. It's just that these other beings have a different spectrum and they're using the same space differently. So, really, like, the fourth dimension and all of the dimensions are right here, but we can only see the third because that's what our kind of radio is tuned to. So ghosts could technically be like an interdimensional being because they're here. They're outside of our range of visible light and being able of what we can receive information from. And even to a degree, I believe we could get, if you keep going into that concept, it's almost like planets could technically be like an interdimensional being, because they as a whole, we're only seeing one aspect of them. It's kind of like how a cell in our body would see us.
When you think the definition of light are photons moving at 186,000 miles a second. That's third dimension. Would the second and fourth dimension be a different speed,
Wow.
a different particle? And if it was not a photon at 186,000 miles a second, the retina of the human eye may not be able to see anything. So how would we ever know about another dimension if we can't see it and participate? But that's where the ETs come in. There's no question in my mind, after 45 years of trying to get to the bottom of animal mutilations, human abductions, the presence of all kinds of intelligences, military, medicine, scientists, physicists, all dealing with the same question. The extraterrestrials are from where? And the where might determine if they are from another dimension, which would be completely different particles, completely different receivers. And what about the extraterrestrials that are clearly interacting with our planet? We can see them except when they fade out or they pop in, and there's a popping in and popping out in this dimension in the UFO phenomenon. What are they doing? Is it that they have such control over the frequencies of every single dimension that they literally could leave the third dimension, go into the fourth dimension to the fifth, make a decision that they wanted to come back 1,000 light years from Earth in the third dimension? And they know how to do a calculation in the fifth dimension, and they will be in seconds, 1,000 light years from Earth. That is exactly the way it's been described to me. I sort of grok it, but I don't think that humans, you, me, I do not think that we truly grasp it. We say words. The ETs that have been described by military and intel, they are not only describing, I think, details of truth, but they have demonstrated for our government that they can pop out of the third dimension. Where they pop in, only they may know. But that our government and people I've talked to are very familiar with certain ETs that are definitely leaving this dimension, going into another dimension, doing a cushion shot that takes them thousands of light years. That is like magic. And that is, for humans, why I think UFOs have always been fascinating, but the government easily got away with saying that there was nothing to, because it is too much like magic.
So Tucker Carlson had been recently talking a lot about the interdimensional stuff too, and he says that from insiders, he said that the alien phenomenon he was saying is spiritual phenomenon, and that it's always been here. These things aren't from anywhere else; that they've always been here. So that can kind of also line up with the interdimensional thing, is that it might not actually be another planet. It might be just another aspect of this reality that we can't access. Or we can access, but only through our pineal gland, not in the physical. We can't access it.
It's raising a good question when you think of the avatars of history and the way, if you are looking at paintings in India, for example, so many of them have the glowing light. If you go to the Christian history, again, Mary, the mother of Christ, is depicted with light. As you go around the world into various countries, if you get to Mexico and Argentina, it is also light, an encapsulating border of glowing light. It could be that that is literal, that at the time and the presence of beings that were not from third dimension, that they might manifest with a glow of light, which is dealing with the frequency that they have come from to the human eye. And that is why throughout Bibles, throughout all sorts of ancient books, being encapsulated in light is almost the first association of a being that would come from quote unquote heaven. And it comes back full circle that if we're talking about extraterrestrials that might be tall whites, they might be Nordics, they might be standing up alligators, they might be standing up insects. There's a whole realm. And it may be that in order to interact with our planet, our solar system, that the most common way to get here is by going out to another dimension and back in. And that might explain why ancient cultures all had these versions in their artwork of light around what we would call the avatars, the mother of an avatar, Mary of Christ, all depicting light. And it doesn't mean that it's a technology. That's what's interesting. It could mean that it's the biology of any given dimension of what that frequency can see or measure that gets into this category of other dimensional beings. But I don't think that humans, Homo sapien, I don't think we really have a true working relationship with other dimensional beings and what frequencies they would be emanating that would be different from extraterrestrial. Would they be wildly different? So different that the category of the avatars and light would be solidly able to be demonstrated, whereas the UFOs seem to constantly shift as if they're going in and out of multiple frequencies. And maybe the technology is clearly different from the light in another dimension. And these are the subjects that frustrate me. We should have the government, the Kirkpatricks of the world should be explaining the facts of all of this, not trying to muddy the waters.
So my last question for you, Linda, bringing it back to Sean Kirkpatrick, one of the things that he has been going around saying recently is that through his investigation, what he's concluded is that everything that everybody knows about UFOs all comes back to two people, Harry Reid and Bigelow. I'm forgetting his first name. And basically,
Bob.
yes, Bob Bigelow. And I'm sure that you have so many different places where information has come from not connected directly to them.
Yes, I mean, that is just a preposterous statement. Let me take you back to reality. I was hired to be director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver in 1976. 76, 77, 78, 79. It was in the late summer of 1979. I'm doing shows with the governor of Colorado. We're working on all kinds of issues that the state of Colorado, and I'm producing all of the time. And it was the late summer, and a crew that I was working with that start telling me about doing camera work and audio work for 2020, the new news show out of New York, Lunar. And they can't keep the battery belts charged. And if they have charged belts and they start moving toward animals lying on pasture ground with an ear, eye, tongue, jaw, genitals, and rectum cord out with no blood and no tracks around the animals, the crew has seen this for themselves. And they say to me, but Linda, we could not keep our battery belts charged. Wow. It was that sentence that got me. What do you mean you can't keep the battery belts charged? We lived or died on having the right amount of battery belts and keeping them charged, people assigned when I was doing documentaries. So somebody working with New York saying that they couldn't keep their battery belts charged, that is what made me start. Wow. That was what I wanted to understand. I called the CIA in Langley, Virginia, and said, I'm director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver, and I would like to talk with one of your agents about this phenomena of animals that are being found, no blood, no tracks, but my crew can't keep their battery belts charged. Can you help me understand? And the voice on the other end of that innocent, honest American calling up the Central Intelligence Agency for help. We do not allow interviews with any of our field agents. And that I will always remember in this life was the beginning of a whole new relationship between me and my government. I truly thought when I made the call to the Central Intelligence Agency in that late summer of 1979 that I had a right as a tax-paying American to call the CIA as a director of special projects at the CBS station and ask for their help. That's why I did it. I wanted their help. they're not there to help him.
Well, your journey since then has been so incredible, and it was in a way so divine that that person answered the phone and set you off on this journey
Yeah,
that is
I've
not only
never
been,
given up.
yeah, and it's been
45
and
years.
it's been life changing for so many people. You know, you've validated millions of people's experiences, millions of people that you're never going to get to know that you've
Yeah.
impacted them. So it's just amazing that kind of in the big picture, these little
When
slight
you-
moments are kind of like, oh, and this is what turned into something that was so incredible. If they would have answered you that day and given you a little fake answer or whatever, we
Because
might not
they
have all of
didn't.
this.
That's right.
Mhm.
You're right. Because I was determined after that I was going to find out the answers about those belts and those animals, not knowing it would be 45 years later that I would be at a Conscious Life Expo reporting about UFOs and extraterrestrials that have proven to be so important in the history of this planet that none of us understood in 1979. And yet, even in 2024, with all that has been reported and the number of people who have talked to me and to others, the greatest mystery on Earth is which extraterrestrials manipulated DNA in already evolving primates to create Homo sapien. Where are they now? What are we to them? And are we an evolutionary product that they wanted? Or are we something so different that we are a problem? My own sense of things is the latter. That humans have turned out to be a problem. And it could be of good reason in the big scheme of things. But if the non-humans that made us are not happy with the product, what happens when we are being kept completely ignorant, even about their existence?
Linda, thank you so much. I
love
so
you,
deeply, I
your
love
work.
you. And I so appreciate you. And thank you for pushing me today to call them, because that is something I wouldn't have done. And now it just opened up a whole new place for me to kind of get information and go directly to the source even more so.
You will start on the line of being more journalistic. It is the right thing. It'll toughen you up. You will learn information that people need. And that's the life of a reporter.
Oh, thank you so much. I so love you.